here with Marcus Holman. Marcus, thank you so much for coming in. It's a pleasure.
Fired up.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Just pretty conversational, but I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what it's been like to be back at Gilman, coaching lacrosse here. We're walking around campus, coming to the studio here and thinking about when you were a student here and just walking the paths and all those memories coming back. So maybe you can start off talking about coaching here and being back at Gilman.
Yeah, it's been great. Obviously, very nostalgic. Just a little background for the listeners. When I graduated Gilman in 2009, our family relocated to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. My dad took an assistant coaching job at UNC. I got a scholarship to play at North Carolina. So our family packed up and we moved, and I really haven't been back in this, Roland Park, Gilman area since then. So what is that, like 12 years?
Yeah.
13 years. And yeah, I mean, a lot of memories come flooding back. Being out on the practice field has been great. I think about an overtime win against LaSalle and, big football games and a lot of those memories coming back. And then just walking around the campus, going into the classrooms and stuff like that. I was telling you about the Lumen Center being new when I was a student here. So yeah, it does. It feels, I wasn't sure how it was going to feel, but it feels right. I like wearing the navy blue again. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here and just trying to meet as many people as I can and reconnect with some old coaches and some old teachers. And I've been enjoying my time here for sure.
What was it like, I guess, when you were in high school, you're playing for Coach Matthews here. Can you talk a little bit about the seasons you had as a player, a lacrosse player, under him and some of the memorable wins in the blue, in the Greyhound, blue and gray?
Yeah. So I was just a 4-year Gilman guy. I went to Boys Latin from 3rd to 8th and then made the correct transfer over here to Gilman as a 9th grader and played JV my freshman year under Coach Ledyard. And then moved up to the varsity as a sophomore. And yeah, I mean, again, some of my fondest lacrosse memories happened right out here at this campus. I think I told some of the guys this, we were 35-2 my junior and senior years combined.
Wow.
So we had 2 losses. Junior year, we were undefeated. We lost in the championship to Loyola. That was a really, really tough game. Still remember that one. I felt terrible because my brother, Matt, was the starting goalie. And he was a senior. Yeah, so that was, Joey Ehrman, Tyler Kimball, those guys were seniors, and, you want to win for the seniors. And then our senior year, we were able to bounce back. We lost our last regular season game right before we went into the playoffs. We lost to Boys Latin. And then we just kind of rolled through the playoffs and beat Calvert Hall in the championship my senior year. So that was kind of a cool, revenge tour. But, yeah, I mean, just back to your point about Coach Matthews, just a tough coach, a great, great coach. Not a lot of fluff with Coach Matthews, which I think is awesome. I think, more kids kind of need to hear it that way. It's honest and direct. I remember a couple practices where, I think he knew that I could handle being singled out maybe in front of the entire team. And, he kind of put that challenge on me. And, I'm not going to sit here and say it was super easy and it was all great. But looking back on it, I really think he molded me to make me a tougher player and make me a little bit more disciplined about things in regards to lacrosse. So, but yeah, I mean, we had some incredible, I always tell people too, I was never the best player on any team here at Gilman. We had Jack Doyle, we had Greg McBride, we had Cooper Brown, we had Harry Previs, Davey Emola. We had guys that were absolute studs. And I was able to kind of just work my way around and play with those guys and create chemistry with them. And those 3 years, even as a sophomore, playing a lot, I was going against big senior defensemen that are going to Division I schools.
Yeah.
You kind of forget how, I think the gap is so much bigger in high school between a freshman and a senior than it is in college.
For sure.
Sure. So that's kind of I'm trying to work my way through that as I get back into coaching ranks here with these young bucks at the high school level.
Yeah, for sure. Especially, 8th, 9th, 10th grade, you see some of these guys and they're tiny.
Yeah.
And then you've got you've got kids that are just sprouting up.
Right.
It's just such a weird period of growth.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of kids are now like reclassing and all that kind of is going on, so there's some old seniors here.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
More so down here. I mean, I guess in Philly that happens too, but I feel like when I moved down to Baltimore, it was like this kid is reclassing and he's 19 years old, but he's got another season.
Right.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So obviously lacrosse, huge part of your life.
Yeah.
Our dads play. Your dad was a little bit older than my dad maybe at Hopkins. But
80 to 83.
So lacrosse is in the blood. Like you've had it all your life, probably born with a stick in your hands like me.
Yeah.
Were you always super obsessed with the game, and did you know that you wanted to get into coaching? Like, what was the trajectory for you at Gilman, going to Carolina, and then deciding that you wanted to become a professional player and a coach?
Yeah, I would say I always just have loved sports. Like I've just loved competition. Whatever it is, like sign me up to play it. If it's dodgeball, let's go. If it's pickleball, been into pickleball lately.
It's the best.
I know racket sports are big in this kind of Roland Park area. So love tennis, golf. Like I said, that was kind of my upbringing, was to just like play as many sports as I can. I played football and basketball and lacrosse here at Gilman. And that was actually like partially one of my reasons from transferring from Boys Latin to Gilman, was moving to A-conference football. I loved football. I thought my path was going to be maybe like playing Division III football somewhere. And then going into my freshman year at Gilman, I broke my collarbone 3 times in a span of 6 months. So that was like starting in April of my 8th grade year.
Jeez.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe misdiagnosis from a doctor, or maybe I was just rushing back in and didn't really ease back into playing. I was just throwing my shoulders around everywhere. So that was kind of in a time of adversity for me. Again, I think adversity is all relative, right? I look around at what's going on in the world today, and I'm very grateful that that is probably one of the hardest periods I've had to deal with personally, but I couldn't play football my freshman year. That was the point that I was trying to make so then my path kind of changed, and then I was like, damn, okay, like I'm going to go all in with this lacrosse thing and really just, practice after school and go in my yard and play and, go to more Johns Hopkins games and watch Paul Rabel and Kyle Harrison. And that was kind of where my love fully went to lacrosse. Up until that point, it was probably both were equal, if not football was ahead a little bit more.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was growing up, I was obsessed with the Johns Hopkins because my dad would take me down to games, and I would be watching Rabel and Harrison because that was their glory. That was 2005, 2007.
We were probably a couple rows apart from each other in the stands, I bet. I can still remember the smell and the band. Yeah. There'd be 8,000 people there easy on a Saturday.
Yeah. I was one of the biggest. I was a diehard. I remember just lining up, getting autographs after I was a little kid. I was, 4th grade, 5th grade, rushing down at M&T Bank Stadium to try to get someone's stick.
And they won here, I think in maybe 07. Yeah.
I think 7.
They won 05 in Philly. Yeah. And then they won 07 in Baltimore,
I was obsessed. Were you thinking maybe Hopkins at some point?
Yeah, that was, again, just growing up there. My dad actually had a coaching stint there from 1999 to 2001 maybe. So, I was on the sidelines. I was in and out of the locker room. I loved it all. And, when that time came to kind of the recruiting process, I ended up narrowing it down, I think, to 4 schools is what I remember. Hopkins, Princeton, Notre Dame, and North Carolina were kind of the final 4. And actually, the first visit I took was to UNC, and when I left, in my head, I was like, I'm going to this place. This place is awesome. Yeah. I just thought it was the best combination of, a social life, a good academic school, and then the lacrosse program at the time was struggling, but I felt like, it was a place that I could go and play right away, just kind of looking at the roster. So, but Hopkins was in the cards. I think at the time it was maybe just a little too close to home. It was 2 miles down the road. So I wanted maybe a little bit more of a full college experience, going to a football game day, going to a big ACC football game, going to a Duke UNC basketball game, those were pretty epic. So I don't have any regrets about the college decision.
Yeah. I mean, UNC, thinking about all the campuses that I've really been to for games and scrimmages in college, and we played UNC my freshman year.
Yeah.
Down at UNC, and it was over spring break, and just walking around that place when it's nice and warm and people are out and about, and the food. I remember we went out for the game, before the game, and it was like brisket.
You have some southern barbecue.
Yeah, it was like, who wouldn't go to this place?
Yeah. I mean, it's an amazing place. I think that maybe lends itself to some problems the lacrosse team has in the spring with staying focused and winning.
It's got to be hard.
I don't want to make excuses though for them. They got they got to get back to the Final Four and the championship.
Virginia can do it.
Yeah, I know exactly. But yeah, when springtime comes around, the flowers start blooming. The sorority parties and the fraternity parties start, and it's a very fun place for sure.
Yeah. So going down to UNC freshman year. From Gilman, what was I guess that experience like, just leaving Baltimore and starting your college career? Talk about that a little bit.
It was good. I was lucky enough to have a teammate, Greg McBride. We both committed. We were both in the same class, so we both went from Gilman to UNC. But it's funny. I just sparked a memory in my head. I think the first night out, I was wearing khakis, and I got absolutely ridiculed for wearing khakis down at North Carolina because, kids from Long Island, Philly, they were all wearing jeans and stuff, and I had a pair of khakis on. And I was like, what do you mean you guys don't wear khakis? I don't know if I've worn a pair of khakis since that.
Just ingrained in the mind.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was a great experience. I think Coach Matthews also is a Carolina alum, so he kind of helped me out with that process. But yeah, it was great. I was fortunate enough again to be able to play right away as a freshman and have a pretty good career down there. Unfortunately, never able to make it to a Final Four. That was kind of always our goal, to bring Carolina back to a Final Four. But it was cool. I think looking back, I think an underrated part of leadership is the classes that come after you. Talking about a legacy that you want to leave. When I was a senior, the freshman class ended up winning a championship their senior year. So it was kind of the last straw maybe of your leadership.
Right.
And that was really cool to see because I actually, we lost my senior year. We lost to Denver. We were up 9-4 in the quarterfinals at halftime. Tough loss. And I just remember thanking the freshmen after that game because they were so bought in. And, as a senior, that's what you want. You want, all of, freshmen, sophomore, juniors to be committed. And because at that point, as you kind of finally feel oh my gosh, this is coming to an end. I want to do everything I can to, win and kind of leave a stamp on the program. So that was really cool to see those freshmen win. I think 2017 is when they won the championship. Cloutier hit that shot in overtime against Maryland.
Yep.
And it was being in the stands for that was really electric. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's special. I mean, I'm waiting a little bit for Harvard to get over the hump.
Yeah.
Even if they get over 500, I'll be pretty pumped because I just feel you think about college lacrosse and how much work you put in and how much you sacrifice. Just seeing your team just get there, right. just win.
Yeah.
It's got to be special.
I'm buying stock in Harvard. I'm pretty bullish on them right now. Great coaching staff. Coach Byrne, I think, he knows what he wants. He knows, what it takes to run a really established program. So,
yeah,
Sam King,
couple Gilman guys there.
Yep.
They're starting because when I was there, they only had one or two Gilman guys or really Maryland guys.
Right.
And I feel you've got to recruit the Baltimore guys.
Got to. They just have that IQ. I was talking to my friend and former coach, Will Manny, and I was just dang, it's nice to be back here. There's just some things that I don't have to teach these kids. They just know spacing. They know kind of the rotations of certain things. So it's cool.
I feel that's all from being around the game and watching.
Yeah.
Just watching players.
Yep. We talked about patterns, right? Lacrosse being kind of it's a free-flowing game, but at the same time, there's patterns that continuously appear, and if you know what they are, it allows you to kind of play a little bit slower.
When we were watching film today, I was just thinking about how growing up there was always that one or two guys that they were my favorite players that I would always really watch because I felt like our games were similar and I could just steal from what they were doing out there. And I think that's a good piece of advice. I mean, kind of a basic piece of advice for younger players, but so important to just find that college or pro player that has a similar style to you and try to replicate in your backyard what they're doing. Try to master it. Try to be creative with it.
100%. And it's funny. I still think even as a pro now, I still kind of peruse around and look for guys that have similar games to me and see if I can steal something from them. Ryan Brown obviously being a fantastic shooter. A guy like Jake Caraway who went to Georgetown. He just played his rookie season for the Atlas. This kid Chase Frazier, who's a Canadian, he plays for the Chaos. He's just kind of a righty, off-ball guy. So, I kind of just look around and see, what those guys are doing, if I can add anything to my game to just make me a better player. But, yeah, to your point, that's, day one stuff, It was always, Kyle Harrison and Paul Rabel for me. Mikey Powell was kind of before them.
Yep.
I probably watched his highlight tape 1,000 times. Pretty electric highlight tape. He's doing front flips and the dip and dunk and stuff. So, yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah. I can't do too many flips, but just I feel like growing up it was that creativity and the fun they seemed like they were having with the game. And I remember going to the Final Fours and playing just in the parking lot, just doing the mini lacs. And I think that's what attracted me to lacrosse at the start is just how fun it is.
Right.
I don't know. I think probably the same for you, but what was it about lacrosse that other than the football injuries that really made you fall in love with the sport and become obsessed with it? Because that's what it takes is the obsession, right?
Yeah. I think, I was lucky enough. We had a house on Lake Avenue, and we had a nice plot of land that was flat. It was down in this valley, and we had a lacrosse goal there. At one point, I think we actually had 2 goals, which was cool. They were probably 20 yards apart. And I kind of just fell in love with the process of just going down there and just shooting lacrosse balls. And it really wasn't I see a lot of stuff nowadays where there's so much more information where kids are just I need to work on this. For me, it was just enjoying the I don't want to say the process. It was almost meditative for me to go down there and just shoot. And I was by myself, and we had some shade areas where my parents bought me the Warrior corner finders. And when you hit them, it's it makes the sound it's like Pavlov's dog almost. I hit it so many times, I was I love that sound. And then I would just shoot and just take a nap on the ground and just and it was really nice to just be outside. I wouldn't even have shoes on half the time. It was just very it was almost relaxing to me.
Yeah, I feel like that's why, I'm not a huge golfer, but I can see why people become so obsessed with golf is just that feeling of hitting a good shot is addicting.
Yeah.
Hitting that corner
right
when you're just shooting around in your backyard. It's addicting. Yeah. And you do it in a game, and it's I want to do that again. I want to keep practicing.
Yep, 100%. And just being outside, being in nature, I think that has something to do with it too. I look at some of these golf courses, they're incredible. I think everybody's bucket list should be to go to the Masters and watch. I don't know if you've ever been to I've never been to a golf event. Have you?
I have. Yeah, there was one kind of near my house that I somehow got tickets to in Philly. I think it was the BMW Classic a couple years ago there. And I'm not a big golfer at all. I was just with some friends, and they had an extra ticket.
Cool.
But it's kind of cool to be there and just watching. The focus and the mental component of that sport.
It's crazy.
There's nothing like it.
It's tougher, again, when I talk to kids about lacrosse, you should be grateful that you have teammates around you. A good adage that I heard that I think is incredible is that teammates multiply the success and they divide the failure, right? So if your team loses, it's never just one person's fault in a lacrosse game.
Mm-hmm.
if you lose a tennis match, it is 100% your fault. There's
Right.
no one else to blame.
No one to blame.
Yeah. And if you're playing doubles, I guess you're 50% of
Right.
the blame. But like, same thing with golf. Like, if you have a bad round of golf, it is literally no one else's fault but your own, which makes it extremely tougher, in my eyes, than a sport like lacrosse or football or basketball.
I think
Just
that's
from the mental component.
that's true. But I also think I'd love to hear you talk about like your mental approach going into games, because I feel like in some ways, yes, you're relying on your teammates, but you're also approaching it like, I have to win my matchups. I need to do what I need to do to like beat my guy, right?
Right. I think players on a team should all like assume the accountability of like a leader, in some aspects. Obviously there's going to be a hierarchy of the older guys or captains, and then guys have to kind of fall in line, but everyone should approach, their role on the team to be the best that they can. So yes, to your point, like going into a game, right? I'm thinking about my responsibilities. What do I need to do? What do I need to execute? Who am I going against? Who are we going against as a unit? I don't think of it too much anymore as like an individual matchup, more so like I need to, beat this guy in front of me. I take a more team-oriented approach. I'm not sure that everyone does that. I don't know if it's right or wrong. But for me, it's more just like our unit versus your unit, because if you're shutting me off, then am I being selfish if I'm trying to get the ball and like throwing everybody out of whack because I need to win my matchup, So it's like, I think about it a little bit more from that perspective. And again, I don't know if that's the right way or wrong way to do it. I know there are guys that take their matchups personally and it works for them,
That speaks to your team also, the Archers, and maybe how closely knit that group is. What is that program like? I'd like to hear a little bit about just the PLL, the Pro Lacrosse League that was started up a couple years ago, and playing with obviously some amazing players. We love like watching the Archers and Coach Bates.
Yeah.
He's an unbelievable leader too.
Philly guy.
Play squash with him.
Nice.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, I think, again, just something I want to hit on real quick. Going back to like my Gilman days, I guess maybe the reason I think about the game that way is because I wasn't ever like, quote unquote, the guy, like, and maybe I don't think I'm being too humble here. Like, I honestly think that way. Like, I think there were always other guys that, not that I didn't want the ball in my stick with the game on the line. It was just like I knew I had other guys that could make plays around me, where I didn't ever feel like I needed the ball for our team to be successful. And I've kind of maybe held on to that, like as I've gotten older. And I definitely feel that way now, just in my role with the Archers, as being a little bit less of an initiator, and someone who has the ball in their stick to use their speed or quickness to beat their guy, because we have guys that are frankly better at it than me. And so it's been fun. It's been a cool 3 years, technically like 2.5. We had a bubble season in 2020 during COVID, but yeah, I mean, thinking back to my first 6 years with Major League Lacrosse, the MLL, and just some of the adjustments that the PLL has brought, and obviously we're getting paid more. Players have options for benefits, for health benefits. I think their social media content is incredible.
Yeah,
I think
it's very good.
Yeah, no one can deny the quality of talent that they have there. I think just the television production has really been great too. Gilman alum Ryan Boyle has been on the call a lot for NBC Sports. He does such a good job.
It's the Tony Romo of lacrosse.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Yeah, I've heard that. Maybe with a little less
yeah.
But yeah, so like on the whole, it's definitely again, professional lacrosse trending upward. But it's we're still in some ways, in our ground baby years, like it's 20 years old. I think at this point in the NFL's career, guys were still working other jobs and had other opportunities to kind of make a full income. So that's kind of where we are. I think it would be awesome one day to just have a true professional lacrosse player. And I think there actually are a couple guys that play both in the indoor league and the outdoor league are able to make, I think, a full-time living just playing lacrosse, which is pretty awesome in my mind.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I'd love to get back to a little bit about the leadership component because I'm curious about your story, your career, and where you picked up on some of those leadership qualities or those leadership ideas that made you a leader in high school, college, and the pros.
Yeah, I think I know this is going to sound weird to say, but being a Baltimore guy, and my family had season tickets to the Baltimore Ravens, so I pretty much didn't miss a home game from like 5th grade to maybe my junior year or senior year of high school. And at that time, who am I looking at in the huddle every weekend on Sunday in a Baltimore Ravens jersey? Ray Lewis. Yeah. What's he doing? He's getting his team fired up. I've never seen a guy play with more passion than Ray Lewis. Again, take away kind of all the off the field, maybe incidents. Those don't really factor into my view of him as like a leader. You can't deny that he galvanized his teammates and made them play better, and made the guys around him better. So I was, kind of seeing him, like I was never afraid to just kind of get in the huddle and like raise my voice to just encourage and be passionate about, whatever it was, if it was basketball, football, lacrosse, tiddlywinks. I think being a leader at a younger age, it takes some courage. You've got to be willing to, step out and raise your voice. That's not comfortable for a lot of younger kids. But what I found is like once you kind of make that first step or that first leap, and you can feel the people around you like matching your energy or improving, it's really contagious. And like, I don't know, out in 5th grade and like cross country runs, I always gravitated just towards like the front of the line. And I've learned as I've gotten older that, you can lead from the front. You can also lead from the back. I think they're both, not one is right. I think there's guys that are a little bit quiet, a little bit more stoic, maybe that, can bring up the rear of the train and, keep guys in front of them and see where everybody is. Personally, I've always been more of a front of the line guy. I just, I'm passionate. I'm energetic. I think a lot of where my success has come from as a lacrosse player has been just because of that, just because of, I'm always ready to go when that whistle blows. And I know that maybe sounds easy to do, but I don't think it is. I think some guys struggle with that. And so, yeah, that's kind of, maybe an early influence was Ray Lewis in a weird way.
Yeah.
My dad has been an influence on my life just as a mentor and someone who's, he's just been honest with me just about certain things at times, maybe a little too tough, but we had some great conversations when I was growing up, and he's just always been honest with me, as he is with people around him, and I really respect that about him. That's a great quality that, I hope to just learn from him and take. But
was he your coach just all growing up?
Yeah, just like rec league and club. He coached our club team, the Breakers. We had some epic tournaments in the summertime. Yeah, this was back when there was like 3 clubs in Baltimore and not like 33.
Back when club wasn't just insane every 3 times a week in December and all year round.
Right. It's we don't have to go down that path. We could talk. Yeah, and I don't know the answer or the rhetoric around the club scene, but he's always been there. And then obviously he was coaching at UNC. He was the volunteer. He was coaching more of the goalies, and we didn't necessarily like interact on the field every day, but I think a special thing about him as a coach is that he's like more of a mentor than a coach per se. Like he'd rather have you into his office after practice, and discuss your life and what motivates you and how to get you to be the best. So he's always been that for me and my other siblings, my older brother Matthew and my younger sister Sydney. So very grateful for Pops. Got to give him a shout out.
Yeah, I think same for me. I mean, lacrosse was always for me, like my dad loved it. Like my dad was like, that's what gets him going. Like even today, he's looking for the Xfinity password so he can get the games going, every Saturday. So, my dad bleeds blue. I was going down to those Hopkins games all the time, and he coached me, club, youth, growing up. And I think that just rubbed off on me completely. That's why that's why I really gravitated toward and started becoming obsessed with it growing up. And, I think my college experience playing, it wasn't the best, lacrosse-wise for 4 years. Didn't really win too much. It was tough to get on the field up there.
Yeah.
And the coaching situation at Harvard was a little shaky.
Yeah, yep.
So I didn't have like an amazing college experience, but I got to go to Harvard. I mean, it's a ridiculous opportunity.
Good trade-off.
But I think a lot of the guys in my class there kind of put the stick down for a bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're going to pick it up again just because it was so intense and, it didn't really pan out for a lot of guys. But it's sticking around for me. Like, we're out there shooting on goalies. I'm still playing.
I know you're going to suit up for practice today.
I might suit up for practice.
Come on. You got the pads in the car?
Pads are right in the locker room. I'm ready to go. But I think it is like the early influence of, dad. Like, just giving me the stick and showing me the way.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. And so when you were at Gilman, can we talk about a little bit just like some of the other factors of Gilman, the place, going here, I guess for 4 years in high school that like rubbed off on you as a person, not only in the game of lacrosse, but just in life? Because I feel like Gilman just gives you so many different keys and qualities to the future that stay with you.
Yeah, that's such a good way to put it. I think, you're given a set of keys, and there's so many doors that you can just unlock here. If you like art, if you like woodworking, if you like theater, if you like athletics. I was reminded again of the teacher coach aspect of the school, which I think is really awesome, right? So, kids sit in class with you and they learn from you, but then they also see a different side of you out on the athletic field. Like, I think that's such an incredible kind of aspect of the school. I'm looking at this DVD of Redmond Finney. I think it was he that kind of instituted that policy, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
Teacher coach, yeah.
Teacher coach.
Yeah.
And again, just walking around here and kids have on shirt and tie, and their shirts are tucked in. Like, just those early elements of discipline, I think are important. Because then what I found once I left Gilman was just like that the world's a little bit easier, in a good way. Like, because I felt prepared. I felt, challenged here at times more than I did at UNC academically. Just being able to think and learn from some great teachers and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, again, all these like memories are just kind of coming back, and it's been cool to walk around and be inside the classrooms and the buildings and the Lumen Center, and yeah.
It's interesting you say the world was a little bit easier getting out of here, because I just teaching always think about how hard my students are just grinding for the grade in 5 classes plus the extracurriculars plus like the SAT plus the sports, and just the days are so insanely packed. And then you've got something due tomorrow instead of like in 3 weeks like in college. But like high school is a tough time. You've really got to be locked in at all times. But I think Gilman, it does a good job of like noticing that, knowing that, and giving you the tools, resources to navigate it so that you are prepared, fully armed when you get out there.
100%. Well said.
Yeah.
They should record that and put it on like the website.
Yeah, give it to Owen Daly for the
the admissions. Yeah, for sure.
So great. And you had a couple book recs today?
Yeah, I do. I didn't bring any. I've seen some physical copies in some of the podcasts that you've done.
We can pull them in.
Okay.
Pull the images in.
Yeah, like Photoshop. So a book that I've read twice over the past year is Greenlights by Matthew McConaughey.
Twice.
Yeah.
Love that book.
Just a great it's kind of, his memoir. It kind of just follows along his journey, but he has a great social media presence. Like his aura is just it's like laid back, but he's like a philosopher in a way.
Yeah.
And some of the book was inspired by the journal that he had been keeping since he was like 15 years old. And again, keeping a journal has become like a very like a buzzword. And I've had one that I've probably written in for the past 5 years, but I'm not very diligent about it. It's just like when inspiration strikes, I write in it. But what I love to do is go back and read through it, because it's like, whether you keep it as like a diary with how you're feeling, or I use it more so as like, if I read something that I really like, I write it in there.
Yeah. And
then you can go back and read it, and you kind of figure out who you want to be or who you are through the writing,
Yep.
It's tough, like with our age of technology, like at times you want to just write it on your notes section on your phone, like, but when you write it down, it's just so different. It's just like there,
Yeah, it doesn't get lost. I mean, I got a new phone and I had so many pictures and little like things that I saved, screenshots on my other phone that, it gets lost.
Yeah.
But when you have the physical book, the physical copy of your handwriting, it is nice to go back in there and see those little bits of wisdom.
Yeah. And one of our coaches, Tony Resch for the Archers, after our season, we lost in the playoffs, and he asked us to do a recap. Him and Coach Bass asked us to do a recap of the season, and he said, he's like, you can write about whatever you want, but I'm going to mandate that you do it with pen and paper, because, like I mentioned to our team, writing down in film, he said that when you put the pen to paper, it forces you to slow down and like think about what you're actually writing. Some, like when we get on the text or we get on our cell phone, like you can just go quick. But the act of actually writing it slows it down so you can be more thoughtful with what you're writing down. So back to your point, Greenlights, Matthew McConaughey has been a book I read twice. I'm currently reading a book called Created for Greatness by Alexandre Havard. He is like a French philosopher. He wrote a book called Virtuous Leadership, and Created for Greatness is kind of like the sequel to that. It's very small. It's probably 50 pages long, and it essentially dives into these two words, and I might butcher the first one. It's magnanimity.
Yeah.
Magnanimous is like the more appropriate word, and then humility as like the two essential characteristics of being a leader. Being magnanimous, right, is like, believing in the greatness of your life, like, our ability to do great things and like step outside of our comfort zone and like challenge ourselves to reach great heights. That's what I think. Like the word magnanimous is such a cool word.
Yeah.
And then like humility as kind of the like on the other end of the spectrum of that is like believing in the greatness of others and like serving them, to be able to push people to higher heights. So they kind of like work with each other. And it's really cool. He breaks it down, and it's again, it's a book I've read maybe 5 years ago, and I have some things highlighted in there, and like rereading through it, it's like, oh wow, that's, I like that note, or I like that, little story. But yeah, I think those are two really cool words. So
I think humility is a great one too. I mean, I haven't really heard anyone say magnanimity. It's a hard word to pronounce.
It is. I've been practicing it for this podcast. Magnanimity, magnanimous.
Yeah, but humility as part of like the Gilman 5 motto is something that is spoken about a lot here.
Yeah.
For you, just in terms of like playing professional lacrosse and leading and coaching, like where does that humility, like where does that show up, I guess, like on the field, in a huddle, like during a game?
Yeah, I think it's I think about it maybe more so as like the stuff behind the scenes. There's another really I'm going to tie this into another book called Legacy by James Kerr.
Sweep the sheds.
Sweep the sheds is about humility. That's why, like, I'll just instinctively yell, like, sweep them, like, out on the field. And, you know, the rationale behind that story is the New Zealand All Blacks. They're the most famous rugby team of all time. They're the best rugby team of all time. They dominate everyone. They go into these arenas, they crush this team, and then, you know, they're leaving and they're cleaning out the locker room, and it's the two captains of the team stay behind, and the locker room is absolutely meticulous. It's spotless. It's perfectly clean. And think about the message that sends to the other team when they walk in that locker room, or their coaches walk in the locker room, right? We just got our asses kicked by this team. And the locker room is perfectly clean. Like, damn, that team is locked in. Yeah. Like, that is a team. That's a unit. Like, those guys know what they're doing, you know? So I think about humility, right? No one is big enough for the small tasks that need to be done for the team. Carry the water out, right? Bringing the lacrosse balls out to practice, cleaning the field. You know, again, humility is bringing out the greatness in other people to some extent, you know, without, you know, promoting yourself. And there's a lot of good definitions of it, but it's a really cool word. I think it's, you know, it's one that's sometimes you got to check yourself. You know, I think I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a saint, or, you know, I haven't, you know, been fallen victim to self-promotion or, you know, having an ego sometimes that can get a little bit too big. But, you know, if you remind yourself of those words and you try to live in a way that, you know, is I guess, applicable to them, like I don't know, that's who you'll become, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
interesting thinking about practicing these words or these values. And two memories or ideas came to mind when you were just talking about sweeping the sheds. One actually is Coach Gittleman was a goalie coach my freshman year of college, and he was huge into, if I'm remembering this right, he was huge into the lockers being spotless.
Yeah.
And my freshman class, we had a bunch of guys who, you know, we'd leave the towels out,
right.
We'd leave our coffee in the locker, and those were all locker violations, and you'd have to do a Wednesday morning punishment for that kind of stuff.
What was that punishment like?
It's probably work out with Gits.
Yeah,
it was brutal. And I don't know. I think a lot of guys will think of those little things like the locker not being clean, or just things that don't necessarily matter in terms of the wins and the losses.
Right.
You know, at the end of the day, they actually do matter, because that's what the culture is. That is the, like, lifeblood of the team, is how well, I guess, the little things are managed.
Yeah. And it's like, again, when you think about why we coach or why we teach, obviously, you know, we want to win games this spring for Gilman. Like, I'm a competitor, you're a competitor, right? Coach Incontreras is a competitor. Like, we want to win games. That's part of our objective. But at the same time, like, no one's getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars to play lacrosse, right? So, like, what are we trying to instill and, you know, leave these kids with when they leave Gilman? Like, you know, humility is part of that. Like, cleaning up after yourself, right? Seems like a trivial detail, but when you don't do it, what you're saying is, I'm too good for this. Somebody else needs to do it. Because if you don't clean it up, it doesn't just magically get picked up off the floor, right? Somebody else has to do that. You know? So what you're saying is, I'm too good for this job. Somebody else do it.
That's the beauty of sports, I think, because a lot of people, I don't think, maybe learn these concepts or these things if not being on a team or playing a sport where you're held accountable by coaches and other players. Like, you know, you might go to college and you have a roommate and they're leaving all their stuff around. It's like, this guy didn't play team sports where that doesn't fly.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the locker room is that's a good story about Coach Gitz.
The locker room bios, yeah. And then the other thing I was just thinking about, and I don't know if this is an accurate story, but it is about Redmond Finney when he was a headmaster here. I think someone told it when they were on the podcast, just talking about him. He was like, he had a candidate coming into his office for a job, and he was supposed to meet with that person in the morning at some time, and as the person gets out of their car and is like walking up the steps of Carey Hall, I don't know who this is, but he's like up on the ladder in the front of the building, fixing something or cleaning something up there, and the person couldn't get into the front building, so he's like asking the guy up on the ladder, like, hey, can you let me in? Can you get me in here? I have an interview. And Reddy Finney comes down and he's like, how you doing? I'm Reddy Finney. Let me just like go get changed real quick.
Damn.
So it's a legendary story.
Yeah.
And I might be wrong on the details of it, but just the facts of it.
Yeah.
The message is the same.
It's the same, right? Like, there's a job that needs to be done. Like, I'm going to do it, right? Because I'm not going to ask somebody else to do it. And no job is too small for me to accomplish. That's really cool. That's an awesome story. Yeah, shout out to Davey Emlo, too, one of my best friends. He was in my wedding this past December. Davey is Redmond's grandson, and Davey's actually getting married this May. They've had to it's like they're on a 2-year delay because of COVID, so excited to celebrate his marriage. And fellow Gilman alum, class of 2009, MIAA champs.
Might actually be Ned. Might have actually told me that story. Someone told me that. Ned Emla. I don't know, but yeah, that's awesome.
Strong lineage there. Those
yeah.
Emla boys. Yeah,
for sure. For sure. A couple other things that I wanted to get to talk to you about is one of them playing USA team and playing for the country, and I'm just curious about what that experience was like and that team. Maybe some of the lessons or messages you picked up on through that experience.
Yeah. It's been a process starting right after I graduated college in 2013. We had tryouts that summer, and then I was fortunate enough to be named to the national team in 2014. The World Games were in Denver. We lost a heartbreaker to Canada. We got a silver medal. And then I was able to kind of stay with the process. They have kind of one-off events in the winter. In the off years, they don't really, it's not, you can't evaluate like too much. But the year before, they'll have tryouts. And then I was able to come back and make the team in 2018. And that was an unbelievable experience for me. The World Games were in Netanya, Israel. So we took an 11-hour flight from JFK. We flew to Tel Aviv. As part of our experience over there, we did a day trip to Jerusalem, which was just an unbelievable experience. We saw the Western Wall. We visited some of these tombs and crypts that were just so beautiful. And then we played Canada again in the gold medal game. We scored at the buzzer to win. Tom Schreiber cut, scored an epic goal. And that was a cool, both of those experiences were a cool lesson for me. Again, I come back to Gilman where, you're on this team, right? And there's 23 guys, and they're the best in the world, best in the country, let's say, Team USA. There's some good Canadian players too. And, what am I doing here? What's my role on this team, right? So I'm just going to be an energy guy. I'm just going to be positive. I'm going to hype guys up. I'm going to just do my best to make sure everyone feels confident. That was kind of, and that role kind of stayed the same from 2014 to 2018. I think I'm like on the all-time goal scoring list in the World Games, but like, I don't know if I've started any games. So just kind of coming in off the bench, learning how to deal with that, right? Like, am I going to have a huge ego and pout because I'm not starting? Or like, am I going to have fun with this and embrace it? And like understand that this is just bigger than me, right? It's about the team and about all of these individuals coming together and having a great experience with it. And that kind of shifted. Coach John Danowski, he's the head coach of Duke right now, did a really, really great job just creating a fun, relaxed culture when we were over in Israel. It wasn't too strict, right? Like, he didn't make it like a boot camp, and you don't have to, be super tucked in and like, just be yourselves, and like, we'll come together as a team and unit. He emphasized a lot, guys, when they're relaxed, can be more confident and better at what they do. Because, at the end of the day, he knows that we know, like, there is a lot of pressure on us to win, and we all want to win.
Yeah.
And then, that was so fun. Like, the gold medal game, for instance, in 2018, I played for a minute and a half. I was on the man-up team, came in, cut, scored, came out. I think it tied the game for us in the third quarter. Like, it was a big goal, and obviously, trust me, I wanted to be in. I wanted to play every second of the game, but sometimes you got to play the cards that you're dealt. And for me, it was encouraging guys and being positive and finishing my shot, and then we won, and my family flew over for the gold medal game. We went to Italy for like 8 days after, our entire family, and my brother's, at the time, fiance, now wife. Such a sick experience going to Rome with my parents, and then going down to Sorrento and Positano, going down to southern Italy.
Nice.
My dad's grandmother was Sicilian, so kind of some cool family heritage there. But yeah, so that's kind of a very long-winded answer to the USA experience for me, but I'm so grateful to be able to have a gold medal. I actually have all three. I have the rainbow of medals. I have a gold, I have a silver, and then in 2015 I was on the box team, and we got third place, so I have a bronze as well. Nice. So
full gamut.
Full gambit. Yeah, I wish they were all golds, obviously, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Variety's the spice of life, they say.
So when you're on the USA team and you have a specific role, I think just hearing a little bit about like what it means to be a good teammate, because a lot of guys probably listening to this episode, you might not be the guy. You might not be the starter or the first line midi.
Yeah.
Like, what for you when you're looking for someone who's a good teammate, or you're thinking about what it means to be a good teammate? Like, what is that? What does that mean?
Yeah, I think this will be another long-winded answer. I guess it is a podcast, right? So we're supposed to talk. But playing basketball at Gilman taught me, how to come off the bench and like be a role player. That's why I think it is important that kids play other sports. Like, it's not great to just like be the best on your team all year round. Like, if you're the best on your lacrosse team, maybe go try volleyball in the fall and like see what that's like, and stick with it. Like, don't quit when you're not a starter. Like, don't go to another team. Just like stick it out. you know. And like, don't blame the coaches for that either. Like, don't make excuses. But anyways, so like, I mean, it's a fine line, right? Because like, you know, that player who maybe isn't starting or seeing time, you want to continue to work on your game, and maybe you have to stay after practice and improve, right? Maybe, you've got to push yourself. You got to challenge yourself to be the best that you can, right? So you're thinking a lot about yourself, but then at the same time, you've got to, what's the goal of the team is to be the best they can be and win, right? So if you're not playing, how can you impact the game from the sideline, right? You can encourage, you can be engaged, you can know the lingo that the coaches are using, right? You can maybe help a teammate out that's on the field with said lingo, right? You can, bring the water out to the huddles when we call timeouts. There's 100 different ways you can impact a game from the sideline. And then I also like to say there's like 1,000 different ways you can impact a game when you're out on the field. That's kind of another area. But yeah, man, I think just it's that fine line, right? You want to encourage the starters when they're playing, but like in practice, go at them, challenge them.
Yeah.
Don't settle for just being a bench player.
Right.
You want to, that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. Like, everyone should assume the role of being a leader.
Yeah.
Like, you should go out to practice like with that mindset. And it's a process,
Think about some of the guys that I played with who are quintessential teammates in my mind.
Yeah.
And I think it really goes back to the conversation about humility too, because kind of swallowed their ego, their pride a little bit to recognize their role on the team and embrace the role and do it to the best of their ability. I think that applies to all areas of your life too, even outside of lacrosse. You might not get the job you want, or you might not get the grade you want.
You might not like your boss.
Sometimes it's not the teacher that you need to go say, like, this question's like not right, Mr. Scott. This is kind of unfair. This is a trick question. Maybe it's like, maybe I didn't read like closely enough, or maybe I didn't prepare enough for that job interview. It's like putting the mirror back on yourself a little bit. Yeah. And seeing what you can do to embrace it, improve, get out there. Like, where are the flaws in your game? Right.
And it's like, I think trust is another big word that was, I'll dance around this a little bit. It's ironic too, coming back to Gilman, where you have the Gilman 5 words. Do you know them off the top of your head? I think we can work through them. Excellence,
respect, humility,
honor, integrity.
Honor, integrity. Yep.
Okay. Hopefully that's
right. Got the head nod from Cesare.
Nice. Yeah, let's go. So, coaching at Utah, we had the pillars of Utah lacrosse: humility, passion, gratitude, trust, and what am I missing here? Put me on the spot. Humility, passion, gratitude, trust. I'll think of the fifth. It'll come to me before this ends. I'm surprised. It's been a minute. But yeah, like, where was I going with this? You were talking about teammates.
And then humility, self-reflection.
Yeah. Oh, trust. You have to, like, at some point trust your coaches. It can't always be like anti-establishment, anti-coach. Like, from a coach's position, like, we're trying to do best by the team. We're not trying to, like, inflict harm onto you or, like, bench you, because we don't like you. Like, that's usually not how it goes. Like, I think it's funny, the old adage, like, that coach plays favorites. Like, yeah, I do play favorites. I play the guys that play hard and, like, do the things that I want to do and the things that will help us win. Like, yes, I'm going to play those guys. Favorites has nothing to do with your personality. It has everything to do with your actions once the whistle blows and we step on the field during practice time. So, like, I think you just understanding that, and just grinding it out, man. Like, some things don't happen overnight. They take time. And then when your opportunity presents itself, a guy gets injured in front of you, you better be ready to step up and make the play. And you better have confidence in yourself, and that confidence comes from preparing and doing the work, like you said to our team, when nobody's watching, right? What are you doing after hours to make yourself better? So,
I'm interested in one of the pillars that you brought up for the Utah program, gratitude, and like kind of how that functions on a team. Maybe how that functions for you, just personally and professionally.
Yeah, I mean, I like to say any day on a lacrosse field is a good day for me. So I'm just, whether I'm playing, whether I'm coaching, whether it's a clinic in Idaho, I just think that's, like, where I love being. So yeah, I mean, I think, again, that's kind of another buzzword in today's culture, I think.
For sure.
Write down your gratitude words, and trust me, I've done that, and I believe in it for sure. Yeah. I can't say I do it every day. Sometimes I forget. But if you wake up and you think about all the things you have to be grateful for, there's an endless list of them. Mm-hmm. And if you just pick 3 and write them down, then I compile the list. At one point in my life, I was doing this pretty religiously for a couple months, and I had 250 things on there, and reading through them was really cool. I was like, I'm grateful for this hot cup of coffee. Yep. I'm grateful for a morning shower. I'm grateful to have a roof over my head. I'm grateful for nice weather for practice today. Right. Yeah. The list is endless, and you can kind of just let that permeate throughout your personality, right? Making those words kind of. So who you are.
Did you do that as a team, as an organization together at Utah?
That came from my dad. That was more that was his, again, being in the game, being a goalie at Johns Hopkins, the most storied lacrosse collegiate program, being a coach at the youth, middle school, high school level, being a coach at the college level at, 3-4 different programs. That was kind of his accumulation of words, and of words that mean a lot, that teams should strive to be like, and also people that emulated those words that he admired. Guys from Gilman, a guy like Dean Smith, who he learned a lot about when he was down at UNC. His old coaches at Hopkins, Henry Ciccarone, guys like that. So,
Yeah. So I did a podcast with the tennis coach here at Gilman a couple weeks ago, and he said something that really stuck with me. Is he was talking about his tennis career, and he was like, he played in like 9 Wimbledons, and
damn,
he was a stud. And he played in Australian Open, and he was a pro for a while, but he does clinics and coaches now at Gilman, and Gilman tennis is like very good. They've won
I was going to ask.
Like 8-9 years, I think he said.
That's awesome.
It doesn't get talked about as much as it should,
Yeah.
but he said something that I really liked, and it's like about when he was like sweating and grinding for that lonely sport. There's no one else out there with him. A lot of pressure on his back.
Just the machine, the tennis machine that just shoots balls now, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, just him and the machine. He has this philosophy, this thing that he always thought about is like, there's nowhere else that I'd rather be, right here on this court. And I just love that kind of gratitude, mindset, just way of approaching the game is what it's all about.
Yeah.
And it applies everywhere. So.
Yeah. That's great. And I've heard the phrase too, like, we don't have to practice today, like we get to, changing, like, I don't, like, oh, I have to work out today. No, like, I get to work out today. Like, I'm fortunate enough that, like, I'm physically able to do this, and I have, a healthy body and a healthy mind that is going to allow me to be out on the field today. Like, if you, like I said, if you go down to those micro levels, like, that's a really cool, that's a great saying. That's cool.
So last thing maybe to ask you is, maybe you could talk a little bit about your podcast that you're doing, or some of the things that you're doing outside of coaching here, and for people who are listening to get involved or tune in and check it out. Cool. And then if you were doing an interview like this podcast one-on-one with anyone alive today, you just get to sit in here with that person in Cesare. Who would you choose? Who would you want to talk to?
Nice. Okay, I'll try to think of that as I speak. I don't know if I'll have a
it's a tough on the spot.
But yeah, I moved back to Baltimore in October. I was out at the University of Utah for the past 5 years, living in Salt Lake City. We took the team from club status to Division I, which was really, really awesome. I was coaching with my dad and 2 other PLL players, Adam Gittleman and Will Manny. Moved back to Baltimore in October. I got married in December, my lovely wife, Alex. And we actually we thought of this idea of a podcast, and we actually put it into action. I think we've done only 6 or 7 episodes, so we're a little bit behind the path to follow. Maybe we'll catch up though one day. We got a lot of stuff that we're trying to juggle right now, but it's called Two Halves. A little bit of an ode, obviously, to our relationship, and also to our athletic backgrounds. Alex played lacrosse at the University of Maryland. I think she'd be remiss if I didn't say that. We've got a healthy Tar Heel rivalry in the house.
Oh yeah,
going on. It's mutual respect though, but yeah. So it's been good, and kind of the premise of it is interviewing couples per se, business partners, people that work together, people who combined, make a whole, right? Two halves. So we've had some fun interviews. Tom Schreiber being one. His wife Kat is one of the all-time leading scorers for U.S. women's field hockey. Some may say she's even like better at her sport than Tom is at his sport, and that's Tom Schreiber we're talking about, like one of the best lacrosse players in the world. So it's been fun. I think again verbalizing things like Alex she's pretty expressive. She says that she figures things out by speaking them out loud, which, I wouldn't disagree with that. And I think it's just a cool way for us to be closer in our relationship and I think the couples that we've had on have enjoyed it too, because I'm not asking Tom about this goal that he scored, at the buzzer. We're asking more so about like, what's your morning routine look like at home with, your wife, like who makes breakfast, who cooks for each other. So, it's been fun. I'm doing a lot of training in the area. At the time, kind of trying to stay agnostic to like the whole club scene, just working with as many players as I can from the youth, middle to high school age groups. And then, obviously playing in the summer. This will be my 10th season for the Archers. We play in Baltimore, I think on June 24th, 25th weekend down at Homewood Field. So that'll be an awesome opportunity. I'm excited. Maybe some of the kids that I've coached or some kids at Gilman here will come out and support me. So, kind of, mixing and matching some things to make ends meet,
Nice.
which I think is it's funny thinking back. Like, I think this is always the way it was going to be for me. I think I told you that like last week, like the 9 to 5 thing. I don't know if it's not right or wrong. I've kind of found other ways to create a lifestyle, and it works for me. So I'm happy for sure. Life is good. I got to answer your podcast guest. Oh man, this is tough.
Philosopher, athlete,
yeah.
McConaughey.
I think it would be McConaughey.
You think so?
Yeah. I don't know if he has a podcast or not, but I think it would be appropriate after reading his book, and he just has like his mantra is great.
Yeah.
I don't know if you follow him on social media. He's
awesome.
He's good. Yeah.
What does he do? What does he say at the end of his? I feel like he says some like buzzword where he signs off. But he's just so like his approach is great, and he's energetic and positive.
Yeah. So good.
I think there's one part of that book. I don't know. I just feel like people don't really. They see him on the movies, they see him on the screen, and he's like, it's kind of goofy. He's in all those rom-coms.
Yeah.
But I don't think people realize how kind of deep of his story is so cool.
Yeah, well, that is a really cool part of the book. It's later in the book where he like cut himself off from Hollywood because he was just doing rom-coms and failure to launch, like these movies where he was just the same role. And again, being the type of reflective person that he is, like he was just like, I'm not taking one of these requests. Like he was like talking to his agent, just like, tell him no. Like, I'm going off the grid. And he talks about like simplifying your life. Like he was like, I was doing 5 things at like a B level, so he's like, I had to cut 2 out. And he was like, he wanted to be like a writer and a husband and something else, and he wanted to just do 3 things like really, really well, so I think that there's a lesson in that of sometimes less is more. But and then he was able to get a role, and I think came back, and then he made, like, I think about a movie like Interstellar. It's my wife's favorite movie. Like, it's an epic movie. He's got the cameo in Wolf of Wall Street, like, which was off the top of the head, like that.
A lot of his stuff
is just intuitive. Yeah.
I think it's his first movie when he.
Yeah, they didn't give him lines.
They didn't give him
like the all right thing. Like, they didn't give him.
That was off the cuff.
Yeah, he was just like, all right, what would this character say? And that it's really cool about like being an actor. You take all those experiences that you've had in your life, and they kind of build up to that moment when the director says action.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts of that book is the of course his notes, like his handwritten notes throughout. That's why I think I don't know what the audiobook. Cesare sent me the audiobook, but I didn't really listen to it because I do appreciate the handwritten.
But
notes.
his voice is so good too.
His voice is so good. Yeah. But one part is biology and giddy up. It's like, I was born, like he was born with this natural ability. Like he's like a very handsome guy. He's he's like 6'4", and like he obviously has this charisma that helped him with his career. But he also like worked his ass off all the time. Yeah, and you've got to respect that, and you've got to respect that he journaled every day. Yeah, for however many years. Right, just a great story.
It's cool. He says like less impressed, more involved. Too. I like that kind of mantra. Just like stop sitting on the sidelines of your life, and like if you want something, go get it. If you if you want to do X, it's going to take Y, Z, A, B, C to like get there. So I like that little less impressed, more involved.
Yeah. All right, Marcus. Well, thanks a lot for coming out. It's a pleasure. Great conversation, and
Yeah.
I'll see you out there. See you for practice.
Cool. Yeah, let's get it. We'll be out on the field in half an hour or so. So
Cesare.
appreciate you guys having me on. This was great.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Cesare, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right.